Good afternoon, good evening. My name is Dr. Morgan. I'm a chiropractor and sports specialist. I've worked with a number of athletes and teams over the years. And today I wanted to just talk a little bit about injury prevention and management. All right, so hopefully there'll be some stuff that'll help you perform well and minimize your injuries and just have a great season. All right, first things first. How many people here by the show of hands has ever had an injury? Oh, okay. We had a few people with never had an injury. That's pretty cool. All right, how many people have ever had an injury that maybe stopped you or prevented you from playing in the next game or going to the next track meet or the next big competition, whatever that is? By show of hands. All right. So that's the majority of us. All right. And how many people have had an injury where that injury prevented you from going to a big competition or qualifying event or something of that nature that, you know, really affected your performance and athletic performance? Okay, all right. So what does that tell us? What that tells us is, number one, in sports, injury is inevitable. The two come hand in hand. If you've been involved in sport, in whatever sport it is, at some point in time in your experience, there's going to be injuries, right? That's number one. Number two, we know that when you have an injury, it's going to impact obviously how you perform, right? Athletically in the sport and activity and so forth, right? That's natural, right? Sometimes it might happen at the wrong time. It might be right before a big competition, an OFSA qualifier or a big meet or tournament. And of course, you're going to feel upset and disappointed and so forth. So injuries don't often happen at, you know, the worst time possible, but that's a part of life. In athletes, and especially in the professional athletes and so forth, the clubs and individuals and coaches and so forth, they spend a huge amount of time and money investing in trying to make sure that the athletes remain on the field, on the pitch, right? Because if you're injured and you're on the sideline, you're not in the game, you're not on the track or whatever the case may be, then obviously you're not able to perform, you're not able to contribute to the team's success and so forth. And in professional sports, that's a lot of money and so forth at stake. And everyone, I mean, you play sport because you want to be in the game as opposed to on the sideline and so forth. So given that injuries are going to happen, two, they have a huge impact on your athletic performance and career and status and so forth, then the next thing that's obviously going to be important is, well, how do we reduce the risk or prevent injuries? And you can't just prevent injuries because they will happen. It's how do you manage them, okay? And I thought the best way to do that is really talk about an example of a common injury in track and field and athletics. Who can tell me what they think is the most common injury in track and field? Close, but it's in the lower limb, so you're close. Any other guesses? Sorry? Your shins, a little further up. That's good. Yes. Okay, how about, yes, do you know what the back of the thigh is? Your hamstrings, particularly as sprinters or jumpers or runners. The hamstring is very common injury, all right? If you hadn't had it before, then maybe hopefully it won't happen or not for a long time, but it's something that's very common in track and field. So I'm gonna just talk about that as an example of what we can do in terms of injury prevention and management, because that's one of the most common injuries among track athletes, the hamstring muscle, okay? Does anyone know what the hamstring muscle does? Like, what's the function of that muscle? Can I get a volunteer, a model? Anyone? All right, come on up. Just come on. All right, what's your name? Josiah? Josiah. All right. So, where's the hamstring muscle again? At the back. All right. So, it's one of the biggest muscles in the entire body. It's very powerful, right? And when you're running, when you go up like this, right, the hamstring muscle does what? So what does the quad muscle do? The front. Yeah, so you got your hip flexors do this, the quad stretches, and the hamstring brings it down, right? So these muscles at the back right here, these muscles at the back. So what often happens with running, or jumping for that matter, but anytime you're running, a lot of time, the most common part of the running cycle where the injury takes place is during the extension.